Well, hello there, health coaches. Today, I am joined by Claire Bartholic, a coach in our community who was recently featured in the New York Times. And this woman has got almost 12,000 Instagram followers. She's got a very full, nice, comfortably round, lovely roster of clients that she's working with. But only about a year ago, it was a very different story. So before we dive in, this episode is brought to you by my free training for health coaches who want to turn their practice into a real salary. I will show you how to get there. Just head over to healthcoachpower.com/earn, EARN. In fact, that may have been where you started, Claire. Do you remember?
Yes,
No
it
way.
definitely is. I actually was listening to podcasts about podcasts because I am a podcast host and I've been one for a while. And Michelle, you happened to be a guest on one of these podcasts that I was listening to, and you had all this great advice. And, it was something where I was kind of, wanting to go down a new path in my business, but I was just like, okay, I need some help. I don't need somebody to 100% hold my hand the whole way. And I didn't want to pay for that anyway. So I wanted something that just somebody would give me a roadmap, tell me what to do. And believe me, I listened to a lot of people talking about their programs and stuff. And I actually, what turned the corner, it's so silly, what turned the corner of me picking you, besides all your information, was that you had just shared an anecdote about your hair, about how you would straighten your hair for years and years and years. And once you found somebody who could actually do curly hair right, you spent a fortune with this lady. And I have just almost the same story. I straightened my hair for years, and I was going through my hair journey at the same time. And I'm just like, you know what, this woman gets me. And that was like the silly little thing. You personalized it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to give her a call. So yes, that's how it all started with you.
That is incredible. I've been talking this week. We have this whole group of, a copywriting training that I've been doing. And we're talking about how storytelling makes all the difference because, right, you must have been hearing a lot of the same stuff from different business mentors. Choose a target market, start your email list, blah, blah, blah. But here I am talking about something completely unrelated.
I know, it's so funny, but it's human nature. In that moment, you humanized yourself. And I was just like, yep, that's it. I totally can relate to this person. And, you never know what that little bit is going to be. So just throw those little breadcrumbs out there.
Yeah. Do you find yourself doing that now? And if so, how do you do it?
Oh, I totally do it. I totally do it all the time. So, whenever I am, writing a podcast or writing a blog or, an Instagram post or something like that, not every single time, but I like to throw out little tiny things like that. Like I'm a running coach, but I love gardening. So I throw in like a little gardening thing every once in a while, and it's not that it's helping me be a better running coach, but it's helping people see that I'm not just one dimensional.
Exactly. Maybe they're like, I love gardening too, or whatever. And I love how you put that. It really humanizes you. Otherwise, we're just these two-dimensional faces on a screen or words on the page.
Exactly. It's just about, building trust. There's a lot of people that do the same thing that we do. And any little thing that can help somebody relate to you means they're going to connect with you. And that's really what we want, is connections.
That is really what we want. So you'll have to take us back. It was a year ago. You were listening to a podcast. You heard me talk about my free training. What was going on in your coaching business at that point?
Okay, so my story might be a little different than a lot of people. So I was a coach already, but working for a company. So working not necessarily so much for myself. I had, one or two clients on the side that I was coaching because I was an independent contractor. So I could have my own business on the side, but I really did rely on coaching for another company. And so, I really was like, okay, I need to take charge of my own business. And I actually had a book deal kind of out of nowhere. And so I was like, well, shoot, if I am writing a book when it comes out, I better have somebody to sell this to. So I better start growing my audience. And, I have had a blog since 2016, I believe. And so that was okay. But it was mostly, hobby stuff. I wasn't really generating a ton of business from it. And I was like, I need to get serious, but I don't really know what to do. I mean, I had figured out how to create a blog on my own, but it was the marketing piece. It was what do I do next? Like, how do I automate this a little bit? Like, how do I really take charge of this without doing, a ton of extra work? Because, I'm also trying to actually do the coaching. So how do I do all the back end stuff? And I was just like, you know what, I need some help. And, at that time, my email list was about 600 people. So it was not nothing, it was serious, but I was like, look, I really need to make this happen. And so I contacted you and, started doing all the things. And actually, it wasn't so much growing my email list that has changed. That has grown, I don't know, 30 or 40%. So it definitely has grown, but I haven't been giving it the love that I've been giving Instagram. So Instagram is like the real, for me, the success story of the moment. And it's, it's definitely bringing clients in. It's definitely changing everything.
Wow. So a year ago, where were you at with Instagram?
I had 600 followers. And now so like my friends and family, basically. And now I have almost 12,000.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, that is a huge jump. And you guys always hear me say how a mailing list is so important. A mailing list is so important. And you will also hear me say, prove me wrong. So you're doing just fine with Instagram. I love that.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your client load then compared to now. I remember you just had a few.
Yeah, I had a few, and I started, with my high ticket clients, and I had anywhere from 2 to 3 to 6 at a time, somewhere in that neighborhood, and now I have 35. And so one thing that has changed is I've finally kind of shifted from those high ticket clients to a little bit lesser amount. But the way my business works is people stay with me a really long time. So I've had people that I've coached for 4 or 5 years at this point. So,
wow.
So these are people that stay with me and train with me over and over again. So I can charge a little less because they stay with me forever and ever. And I also found that the super high-end clients just are really starting to take too much of my time. So I'm kind of happy to shift into a little bit lower service, a little bit less of my time, and being able to help more people. So, So what did I say? 3 or 4 clients, 2 to 6 clients, I would say. When I started to, I'm full. I'm full at 35. Yeah.
I remember talking to you about like, if I have any more clients, I'm not going to have any more time. And then we talked about scaling and starting the groups. And it sounds like that's really where the magic is for you right now.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And I actually don't do groups either. I started.
Oh, is it not a group? These 35? Not a group. You have 35 private clients? I just assumed they were in a group.
Not in a group. I tried the group. And it just didn't click because they didn't really want to interact with each other so much. And so it was just basically me trying to like force this community, and it just didn't really click for me. And, so I have a program that I use. So I don't talk to most people on the phone. I do everything online. And so everybody gets to hear from me a little tiny bit every day, but I don't have to spend a ton of time every day with every single person. So I'm able to scale it, but without having to do the group thing. That I might revisit that in the future, but I just found that the Zoom calls, the weekly Zoom calls or the monthly Zoom calls, whatever they were, they weren't very successful. So I'd have the people who would take up all the time and ask all the questions. And then I have the people in the back who would never say anything. And then some people didn't show up. And it was just like, it just didn't feel like I was equally serving people. And it just wasn't that enjoyable for me either. So I tried it once and I'm just like, I'm going to put this on the back burner. So no
How
groups.
interesting. 35 individuals that you're serving individually. I can see that you're full and you will need that next level of scaling soon.
Yes.
Ooh, that's
Yes.
exciting.
Definitely.
Well, I just
Definitely.
remember when you joined HPU, and by the way, I mean, we've been talking about HPU, but for anyone who doesn't know what that is, Healthy Profit University is the course that I've been running for about 5 or 6 years now. Coaches come through all the time, and the whole idea is to turn coaching into a real business, make a real salary, make a real impact, work with the 35 clients instead of the two, right? That's what we all want.
Right.
Anyway, you joined and you just ran with the material. Like I saw you absorb the lessons, you did the things. I'm curious, what part do you think made the biggest difference in how you're running your coaching business now?
Well, I think the thing that made, I would say, the most immediate difference was getting the freebie. So, for those of you who don't know, you create something, a really nice free offer for people to get them to connect with you, sign up for your email list, and then starting the email chain. So for the people that come, they get a series of emails after they join. And for me, that took so much off my back because people would just come to me while I'm sleeping, and then they would be a part of my, environment. And and then when I would send out something new, I'd have an email list, an audience to send it to. So I think really offering something of value to people and make it look good. It doesn't, I don't know how much time I spent on it, a couple hours maybe. And it is something that people still sign up for. And it's just that was what I needed as far as, the direction. I needed a little technology push and kind of a way to automate things a little more. That's where I was stuck the most.
Yep.
But I'm a writer naturally, so I just really loved all your writing tips too, so I don't think I've ever really studied marketing or anything like that. But as soon as, you would say a few things and I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to take that. And oh yeah, I'm going to take that. So there's a lot of really good nuggets on, what to say when you're stuck or, what to write about, that kind of thing. And, now it's like second nature, but I needed, a map, a roadmap, and that's what I got. For
That's
sure.
terrific. I mean, what you're describing is a very, very, very basic funnel. We hear this word funnel all the time in marketing, and it can get like really icky and crazy, but it just means gather people and bring them to your world. Like you said, now they're in my environment, and that's all you need. You need to give them something for free, get them onto your mailing list. Now you can nurture that relationship with them. Do you have any idea of how many of the clients you have now went through that very simple funnel? Like even off the top of your head?
Oh, geez. Honestly, I don't know. I really don't know because see, now I'm finding people. So when somebody signs up to talk to me to see if my coaching is right for them, I have a a Calendly form, and so Calendly form, and they say, where did they hear from me? So they either hear from me from Instagram or my podcast, or I rank really high on SEO because I've had a blog for a really long time. And so they hear about me in these different ways. And then they come to me and, I know how to talk to them based on, what they say on that form. So I'm not sure how many people came directly from the freebie, but those are my three main things. And I think that's super important, is asking people how they found out about you, because people who know me from my podcast, they already love me because they hear me talk all the time. They feel like they know me. They feel like I'm their best friend. So those people, super warm leads, those people convert like crazy. People who just do a web search and find me, they don't know me. They don't trust me. They don't know my story.
Yes.
They're a little bit harder to convert. So when I get them on the phone, I talk to them differently. I sell myself a little more. I tell my story a little bit more, but I don't have to do that so much with the people who I've already built trust with.
Oh, I love that tip. And having that blog behind you, having that, I remember you saying, well, I am the host of a podcast that has XYZ number of listeners. It was like a thought you just had. And I was like, whoa, what did you just say? You have an audience of all these listeners?
Yeah. Yeah. I have a huge podcast. We're one of the top running podcasts in the world. And so, yes, I have a huge audience, but It's not my podcast. I'm just the host, but people think that it's my podcast. So they do get to know me. I am speaking from the heart. It really is me saying everything that I'm saying, but I'm not promoting my coaching business on the podcast. So,
Right.
it's a little different than if it were my own, which will be coming one day, hopefully soon. But it is a way for people to get to know me and to trust me and know who I am. So yeah, that's really huge.
Well, it just strikes me, and for everybody listening, it's so easy for us to be like, I don't know to my business. I don't have much of anything going on here. And then in the course of a conversation, somebody like Claire will drop this bomb that she has a podcast with thousands and thousands of listeners. Or sometimes I talk to someone and they're like, oh, yeah, I run this group, or oh, yeah, I'm involved with this whole other organization. So almost all of you listening, you have an opportunity somewhere in your life. You may not be seeing it right now. That's why sometimes it's helpful to get another set of eyes on your business who can say, hey, that's a major opportunity. Hey, why don't you try this? Because you clearly had that going on. And then of course, with your blog, you're saying you're ranking high with SEO. That's another huge opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we were talking about connections earlier, and that's really it. Like, use your connections or make new connections. Because, we're sitting here behind our computers in our houses all day, trying to build a business from nothing. And you forget that there are people out there who are doing the exact same thing, who you can collaborate with, who you can, admire, who you can look at, that's one of the things that has really changed my Instagram following. Is what I started doing was looking at people who do something similar to what I do and seeing which ones are successful, seeing which ones aren't so successful, and trying to see if I can kind of do what they do, but in my own way, not copy. You'll get in trouble if you copy. That's not going to work. But use, certain techniques to make something your own, and reach out to the people. See if you want to collaborate on something. There's so much business out there. There's so many people out there. Your competitors should be your collaborators. I firmly believe that. And some people are going to say no, they don't want to work with you because it's competition. But the people that do want to work with you, you're both going to rise up, So if you have a blog, reach out to other bloggers, exchange blogs. If you have an Instagram, exchange posts. If you have a podcast, exchange podcasts, or whatever it is, come up with something creative. But I have gotten so much from having other people who do pretty much what I do on my show. And it's not a competition. Maybe some people relate more with that person, but maybe some of her audience relates more with me, or whatever it is. So, I was probably a little hesitant to reach out to people at the beginning. And now I'm just like, whatever, I'll be on anybody's podcast. I don't care. The more connections, the better.
Yeah. Okay. So I was going to ask you how you were collaborating. It sounds like you've been on their show. They've been on yours.
Exactly. So we'll do an exchange of podcasts. So, and we'll batch it all at once. So I'll interview her, she'll interview me, I'll be on her show, she'll be on mine. And, these are people, some of them had smaller audiences, some of them had bigger audiences, so it's obviously, if you choose somebody that's too big, they might not choose you. But I would say, don't be afraid of choosing somebody who's small, who is really a go-getter, because they could be big one day. So, choosing somebody who's small might be good practice for you. If you're nervous about it, choose somebody where if you make a fool of yourself, it doesn't really matter, or, whatever, just reach out, put it on your schedule to network once a week.
That's a really great way to grow. Absolutely. And speaking of connecting, you got to tell us how you got connected with the New York Times.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really awesome. So that is through my podcast. So I get publishers who reach out to me and say, read this book, or I want this guest on. And so this writer named Danielle Friedman, she wrote a book called Let's Get Physical. Shameless plug. Every woman in the health industry, every woman period, should read this book. It's awesome. And so I interviewed her for my podcast. And a few months later, she called me up and said, "Hey, I'm writing an article about running. Can I feature you?" And I'm like, "Yes, please. Yes, absolutely." And so lo and behold, that's how that happened. And, this isn't the first time I have been quoted, but I would say, obviously not everybody has those same connections, but I would say one tip, if you're interested in doing this kind of stuff, there is a site called Help a Reporter Out, Haro. And I use that all the time. And it just sends you emails, I think it's twice a day, about, reporters that are looking for experts in whatever field. And I have definitely gotten lots of leads that way and been published that way too. So I would say learn how to pitch yourself. And Michelle, you do a great job of teaching people how to do that. And just sign up for some of this stuff.
We have a whole episode. I don't know which episode number it is, but back in the archives, we have an episode on getting PR for yourself. And I talked about using Haro because I've used it successfully for years to get quoted in different publications. But what I loved about the story you just told us, you didn't go out there saying, I want to be in the New York Times. I'm going to find writers from the New York Times and bug them and show up on their front door. Nothing like that. So sometimes the connections that we make or the opportunities that fall into our laps, it's kind of circular. It's not what you expect it's going to be. And it's not always a one-to-one transaction. I'm going to do this and I'm going to get that. You just were like, yeah, I'll have this person on my podcast. And in a roundabout way, boom, that came back to you in a really amazing way.
Yes. And honestly, it's a really similar story. I've been published in the Washington Post too, twice. And that is a really sort of organic way. It was this woman who was a runner and, she used our services for coaching. And she's just like, I have a few questions for you. And I'm like, sure. And I'm going to publish this in the Washington Post. I'm like, yes, great. So it didn't start, like you said, it didn't start with me just pounding on doors, although, I don't think that's a bad idea either, but, you just never know how all of this is going to unfold. And, just keep making those connections again, because somebody knows somebody who knows somebody who will get you there.
That's exactly it. The more people you know, I often tell health coaches that when I started in this business, I was a total introvert and I started trying to talk to people in the grocery store, not about my business, not trying to sell them anything. But if I saw them staring at all the produce, I would just say, what are you looking for? And they would say something like Swiss chard. And I'd be like, it's right there. It comes in 3 colors. And it was just a way of like stepping outside myself a little bit. And then these days, of course, I feel like I'm constantly talking and looking at myself on a camera and listening to my own voice. And it's insane. But if you're feeling like, oh, I could never do that, you just start small. Like none of this happens overnight. You said something funny before we started about being an overnight success, but how long did it really take?
Yeah, about 6 years, So it's, and that's actually okay, because I needed that time to, do other things in my life. I didn't just quit my job and start this business. I did, coaching on the side for a long time while I had, a successful real estate career. And then the seesaw kind of, shifted a little bit. So I was doing less real estate, more coaching, and eventually it was enough that I still have my license. If anybody wants to buy a house. No, that's a joke. I mean, I do have my license, but I don't sell houses anymore. I only do coaching because, it's my passion. It's what I want to do. But I didn't just, throw out my old career and jump into this one right away. I took my time and now, I'm making real estate money. So it's great. It's absolutely great.
That is great. Maybe you could just say a little bit about how you knew that tipping point had been reached. Because like sometimes we can get a bunch of clients, but then am I going to have this many clients next month, next year? Like, how did you decide now's the time to leap over into coaching?
Yeah, well, see, coming from real estate's a really up and down kind of career. So I never knew where my next paycheck was coming from with that. So, you sell a house and then you have to start all over again. It's like you get fired every time you make money. So So you just, so it was just the grind of that. And, it generally became something I really didn't want to do anymore. And so I don't think there was like a day where I was just like, I'm done. But, it was something that I was just like, okay, I'm making a living at this. I can keep doing, so I was making two salaries for a little bit before I'm just like, okay, I'm done with that. And maybe it was when I had to pay my next round of dues or something like that.
Right. Do I really want to do this?
I know. I think that was probably it, because those are expensive. Those are a couple grand a year. And so you really have to know that you want to do that to stay in the business. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to pay those anymore.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
hearing this kind of story. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for sharing. I really appreciate you being here. Your clients are so lucky to have you.
Of
And
course.
for everyone listening, you just benefited from an amazing amount of experience, right? In the same field that you want to be successful in. Start where Claire started. Start with the free training. Again, that's healthcoachpower.com/earn, EARN. Claire, I can't wait to see what happens next for you and that next level of scaling in your business.
Yeah, just wait, Michelle. Just wait. I don't know either. I don't have all this planned out, but I take it one day at a time. And it's the boring stuff. It's staying consistent. It's chipping away. It's none of the sexy stuff.
Well, it's just like becoming a better runner or getting healthy, right? It's the boring stuff. It's the consistency. It's the everyday. We should all be amazing at building businesses because we understand the boring stuff.
Yep. Yeah.
We just have to apply it to ourselves.
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, Claire, what a pleasure. I hope to hear about your next steps real soon. Thanks for being here.
Of course.